it's saying, are we live? I think we are. No. Yes. What is YouTube saying?
We're live. If we weren't live, people would say you're not live.
Okay, cool. I mean, I don't know why I'm always the last one to see that we're live when I'm hosting the dang thing.
We got to work on our introductions.
Yeah. Versus, are we here? Let's see.
Let's go.
Very professional. Casey, we're going to get to that question in a second because that's really going to be what the whole show is going to be about, is talking about who's going to lead laps, and that's
run fast laps. There's going to be a lot of fast laps that get cycled off because of the specific track and the specific package. So I would expand that to who are the 4 drivers that are going to get hog points or fast laps, because if you look at Kyle Busch last year, he put up a pretty good number and didn't lead a single lap. Martin Truex Jr. 2 years ago was so if we look at Truex 2 years ago, was the highest rated driver at Atlanta. How many laps did Truex lead? 4. So was he a lap leader? No, but he got 19 fast laps. You can do that in this package with a lot of tire fall off and guys just kind of out there spread out. So who are the 4 drivers maybe that get hog points and finish in the top 5?
Yeah, I think building a 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 hog lineup is the way to go.
Got to be at least 3. You can't go 2.
Yeah,
you can get away with 2. Like, why do we keep doing this? And I wrote about this at racefortheprize.com. Remember last week, people were like, what if I just do 1 hog? People are just, they don't want to guess. They hate guessing so much. That's like, what if I only have to guess once? It never works. It can't work. And we went through and showed it, and it doesn't work. And so just use floating the idea of, what if I only do 2? What if you have to guess 4 times? People just don't want to do it.
Yeah, if you're
you gotta have 3.
I mean, the worst you can do by playing 4 guys that you project to lead laps or get fast laps is, okay, you hit 2, but at least you're throwing,
more darts.
More darts.
And the thing is, your darts, like the selection, like, oh, I missed. Well, your miss isn't terrible. You pick, let's say, Chase Elliott, and he doesn't lead a lot of laps. It's not going to absolutely kill you. Sure, you're not going to win the GPP, but at least you had a chance at winning the GPP. You may still cash, you may not, but it's still like you're aiming at some pretty decent targets that even if you don't absolutely hit the home run, you still might be okay. Especially when we look at the way the hog points have spread out in this package. Like, all right, so you missed, but the guy's going to have a decent day. Probably will get over 50 points, and you're still alive.
Yeah,
that's my philosophy.
No, I'm with you there. Do you just want to start by talking about Harvick, and then we'll?
Yeah, we probably should focus on these guys up front. You want to go in qualifying order, or you want to start with Harvick?
Let's just start with Harvick, then we'll go qualifying order. So Harvick's 11,000. Obviously, if you look at how he's just murdered people here, it's understandable. We're both on the same page that if there's one place that, and did you see his tweet this morning? Childress' tweet.
What did he say? I know I saw Roddy Childress say, we might be too loose, we might be too tight, we might be just right. Fist sign. He always is hammering that most recent emoji used. His number 1 is always the fist.
But yeah, we're both on the same page that if there's one place that Harvick's going to run well at, it's going to be this one. And even if you look at
how what did he say though? What did Harvick say?
Oh, I didn't see what Harvick said. Did he?
You saw what Childress said.
Yeah, I saw what Childress said.
It's not really.
Well, he's the one who matters. It's not Harvick. It's what Childress.
That's 100% correct. Harvick doesn't know. He just gets in the car.
Yeah, he's old.
So that's it. It really didn't narrow anything down for me. I did go back through past tweets and see, like, oh, well, how often does he use the fist? Every time.
Every time.
Every time. The fist is not some sort of wink, wink clue. He uses the fist when they miss, too. So,
yeah. So, I mean, let's see. I got Harvick projected for, and I think I'm a bit under what you have him, but I got him for 80 laps led, 58 fast laps, so that's 46 hog points. In a 325 lap race, that's not crazy.
I'm giving him 50. We've seen, the past trend is the number 1 guy gets 73. So, or the number 1 in average is 73 points. I mean, actually 50 is below And we've got 57, 63, 84, 103, 53, 59, 94. If I had to pick one driver that was going to do it, it would be the one driver that has done it every single year. And now this is the part where we say, but this year. So my argument against that, this year, he didn't run well at Homestead. He's never running well at Homestead. He's not supposed to run well at Homestead. And why people played him, I don't know. I mean, I guess but he was good last year, but he's never good at Homestead. This year at Las Vegas, we made the same argument on the show. We didn't like him. I played some of him because I felt like you had to just play him because he was starting up front, but we weren't crazy about it because you look, he missed the setup. So the whole stance was, well, maybe they're going to guess right this time, but they guessed wrong last year. It's not, sure, it would have been nice if they guessed right, but then missing the setup again, it doesn't really change my stance. They're guessing on setups. And that's kind of what his tweet was today. We're either going to be too loose or going to be too tight. It's kind of tough in this new way of setting it up. And this is what we've been talking about all year. So last week at Phoenix, they haven't been very good at Phoenix lately. So that wasn't a surprise either. And here we are. If there's one place where the data says that they're going to be pretty good with their guess, it would be Atlanta. If there's one track on the circuit where it can work, it would be this week.
And he doesn't even need to win for DFS sakes. He just needs to get out, lead laps at some point.
Well, he never wins at this race. I guess he did win last year, and he won in 2018. But typically, he doesn't win this race. But he still puts up the massive number. And so basically, we've got people want to play Harvick, or you're going to play Harvick. You're going to fade Harvick. That's another scenario. Or maybe there's a scenario where because of his price, he has a good day, but he doesn't factor into the optimal lineup. So under that, you've got, I've got 2 out of 3 scenarios where he doesn't work, so I'm not going to play him. But that just sounds like people really trying not to spend $11,000 on him because it becomes much easier to build lineups without him. Not a lot easier, but it becomes slightly easier. And his price really, because if you really boil it down, why are you fading Harvick? If it's because of recent results, I don't buy that. I'm not really worried about them missing setups. They missed setups a lot last year. Sometimes they're going to hit home runs and sometimes they're going to strike out. So I'm not buying the recent performance thing. Number 2, if you're fading him just because of price, this is a 500-mile race. The price doesn't really worry me that much. If we look at previous optimal lineups, there was more expensive drivers in the optimal lineup, if I'm not mistaken. So last year, the optimal lineup had an $11,100 Brad Keselowski. That was 2019. 2020 optimal lineup had, what do we got? An $11,700 Kevin Harvick. And look, they set that pricing before qualifying. They set that pricing before practice or any of that stuff. So, well, I guess that's 2020. They knew that they weren't going to. Well, actually, no, they would have set that after qualifying, wouldn't they have?
No, because they didn't race Atlanta until after.
No, that's Atlanta 2020, so they would have known the qualifying order because that's COVID.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They knew he was starting 9th.
Yeah.
But he also had won a couple races, too. I don't know. Probably overanalyzing that too much. It's fine. You want to fade Harvick. I don't know. What's your final stance on Harvick? I think
I'm playing Harvick. I'll probably be 40-60 with Harvick, without Harvick. I don't mind the lineups with Harvick that I've made. It's just I'm just trying to throw as many darts at the window as possible, at the wall as possible. I guess before we get into the other guys, they did ask, can't find it, who we're fading. Any fades on the top guys this week? I guess we should answer that before we get into the guys that we like.
With my price, I don't think I've ever done anything this ridiculous. I'm just really saying that they all have. I don't know how you fade any of them. I think I was kind of fading Logano till abnormally distributed. Pointed out that it reminded me, but he also pointed out that he had long run speeds. We looked into it, and I remembered. Oh yeah, because if you read what the driver said, you can pull out some pretty interesting things. Logano got damaged before the end of stage 3 last year. They battled with that, but then they had really good long run speed at the very end. So now Logano is back on my board. So I can't make a definitive case against any of these guys. Can you?
The only guy I'm maybe Logano. Maybe I need to play Logano. But right now, Hamlin and Logano.
He's the one I feel, because you take that Atlanta race, And then you look into this year, the 2 intermediate track races, they just have really struggled with their setup. He was not good on restarts. So yeah, probably has the lowest amount of confidence, that's probably the same for everybody else. So maybe that's why we should play him more. No, you don't.
I don't know. I can believe
you last week on Logano, and he was a home run play. So how am I going to convince you to play Logano when he's fast?
Know, man. But anyway, I'm not. I don't plan on playing Hamlin. I think we haven't even talked about Larson or the other guys that we like. I just don't see Hamlin factoring into it.
Give me your definitive case, or just give me some evidence for fading Hamlin.
I think there's faster cars that are going to get by him. I don't see him holding on to the lead. I don't see him holding even through the competition caution. I think he gets passed early, maybe on lap 3 or 4. And we're going to see guys like Brad, Elliott, Larson, Harvick, Byron, Blaney. I mean, I like those guys more than I do Hamlin. I like those guys more than I do Logano, so I'm going to go there.
All right, so let me try to argue with you on this one. Where do you think Hamlin's going to run throughout the race? He has to be in the top 5.
Yeah, he's going to be 5th. I think he's the last.
You've got a driver that's going to be in the top 5 for the majority of a 500-mile race. How many fast laps do you think he siphons off just by staying in the top 5 for the majority of the race? I guess we could look at last year's race, look at drivers who were in the top 5. That would be Harvick, Truex, Busch. 12 fast laps. That seems pretty fair. To give me 12 hog points.
Mm-hmm.
If he only gets 12, then you're going to win. Your Hamlin fade works. But if he gets up to 20, which was pretty much what he was doing last year at what was he on average? He only averaged 14, but he did run pretty strong at these intermediate tracks last season. It's by no means a guaranteed lock that he's going to get 20 hog points, right? If he does give you this 7 or this 15 day, it's probably not going to work. I think 15 is fair. I mean, that's a 600-mile race. The Coca-Cola 600, you got 15 hog points. If he only gets 15, with his starting position, it doesn't work. If some of these other guys that are a little bit cheaper and can get positive place differential, they get 15, they'll absolutely work. That is the fade to me. But if he leads laps, it's going to be tough for the fade to work.
I can tell you, if Hamlin leads laps, I mean, everybody's going to lose money.
Well, the first 20 laps are going to be his. Now, Truex could have a good restart, and it's not absolutely terrible, but I believe, like Dave Smith posted, over the last 2 years, the number 1 starting position has a retention rate of something like 86% at Atlanta. It's not absolute quicksand, but it's really hard. And I can't imagine Mark Truex Jr., who passing him at the very beginning. Hamlin gets out to the lead, will probably maintain that lead. He's got a good head start on the field in terms of getting hog points. But I could understand. But if everyone else is fading too, and I think, like I looked at what Phil is going to have the lowest amount of exposure to Denny Hamlin. Mm-hmm. People are scared of the negative place differential. Like Logano, everyone's fading these guys. You might want to take some exposure to them.
So I can more easily make a case for Logano than I can Hamlin.
But Hamlin's been much better this year than Logano has.
Yeah, just I don't like these two guys. Can we talk about guys that we like so I know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Try to argue for guys that I have no confidence in.
Yep. Go ahead. We want to answer another question, or you want to talk about
let's go through here. Yet again, I don't think Stuart Haws has been. I mean, obviously they're not performing well, but like I wouldn't say that they're over, and they're not DEI at the end. Okay, when they're having to be bought out by Chip Ganassi and stuff.
So Stuart Haws. We've been saying this for years. There's been 2 Stuart Hosses. There's Haas and then there's Stewart, and I just have never agreed with putting them together. We've seen the performances be completely separate. There was the Harvick Busch team and whatever, and then Tony Stewart and whoever he was slotting in there. And even now I see like there's Kevin Harvick's team, and then there's everybody else. And we've seen them come on and say, hey, we try to run Kevin Harvick's setup. It doesn't work. So sharing notes and working together doesn't really work. Is Stuart Haas struggling? Well, Custer's not going to run well. Briscoe's not going to run well. I mean, these are not great drivers by any means. Eric Almirola is not going to run well. Kevin Harvick, they've missed on the setup. They won 8 races last year. They've missed on setups. Phoenix is not the great racetrack for them anymore. Homestead is not a great racetrack for them. We would have liked to see him run better at Las Vegas. They missed the setup. I'm not worried. There was the article that we were looking at, how they are no longer allowed to cheat the laser inspections. That's fine. Whatever. Maybe they'll cheat today. Maybe they'll get away with it. We don't know. Yeah, but Hendrick is running well. Hendrick's looking good. You want to stack Hendrick? Go for it.
Yeah, let's see. I don't know. It's a super draft question. I mean, I like Cindric. I think Cindric's a play on FanDuel as well, but the multiplier that Cindric has is really good. Let me see the other guys that I like. I mean, people like Blaney and Bowman, even Kyle Busch. I like their multipliers as well. Let's see. 8K. We'll talk about the 8K range. We'll talk about that when we get
and the Dillon thing. We'll get to that eventually. So you got the whole title. Let's at least talk about where the money is going to be made. Or at least I think. So we've talked about Harvick, and we talked about the two guys that we probably think that will have the lowest ownership, or that people are looking to remove from their pool, because the pool is already pretty deep. The pool is 10 guys deep at least. Oh, I mean, you got to put Bowman in there as well. You got to put Kyle Busch in there as well. So what is that? 12 guys? 12 people who can all run fast laps. These 12 will not lead laps. And I mean, there's a way that I don't know if I want to sit here and try to predict who's going to have the best pit stop, who's going to end up on the front row, who's going to lead laps. But we can try to decide at a high tire wear car racetrack where the top separate from the bottom, that these are the best cars to run fast laps. Who's next step for you that you would like to talk about after Kevin Harvick?
So
Larson?
After Harvick, we're going to talk about the guys that I flat out project to do well in general, and that's Kyle Larson.
So
and Chase.
That's a good point, and I just want to enter this in right before you go. And what you mean by project to do well, that kind of an easier way for people to build is say, hey, can this guy get a top 5, even though all these guys can get a top 5? But that's just a lighter version of, reducing the anxiety of, I don't know if he can lead laps or run fast laps. Well, if you're in the top 5, you're going to run fast laps. So is Kyle Larson a top 5 driver? Yes. Is he top 3? Yes. What do you like about Larson?
Everything that he's shown this year. I mean, everything is pointing the team, the car, how he's been running, how he's been running at these tracks and good equipment. I mean, it's all Larson. It's all pointing to Larson to me.
And we went even deeper last night on the, I got downvote on that show. Who's down? The description says this is boring. Don't watch. There seems to be, for whatever reason, every video I upload now is getting one downvote. Who could that be?
It's only one guy, man.
Who could that one downvote?
I don't know.
Go away, man. One thing we talked about was, if you go back to this Atlanta race, he was really good in the first ever low downforce race at Atlanta and was passing Harvick. Like, they were battling in this racetrack at this race, but Larson ends up actually passed him on a restart. I can't remember. What did we decide happened? You watched the video on that.
Oh, yes. So
he's got a better push. Yeah,
you got to push. The inside line kind of fell apart because they were trying to wreck each other, and he got a push from Truex past Harvick. But I still think Larson had a great car in that race, and that's a Chip Ganassi jump car.
Yeah, and that was a Chip Ganassi car. He has a speeding penalty that hurt his finish. So the track history checks out. I mean, you look at Fontana, 2017, he won at Fontana, which would be a high tire wear racetrack. I know that's a different package, but I would argue that being able to manage your tires at a racetrack like Fontana in the old package, if you were good at it with low downforce, you're probably going to be just as good, if not better, in high downforce. And I think the big thing is just these cars look really good this year.
Yeah.
The Hendrick team has figured something out. So after Larson, this is where it gets a little bit trickier. Where do you think you would want to go next?
Probably going to go Elliott in terms of win equity, top 5 equity. I'd like Bowman as well. I don't know how solid Bowman's going to run. I think he'll get up into the top 5 at some point. But if I'm looking at guys who can lead laps for these guys, it's going to be Larson and Elliott.
So when we look at recent history, now Dave Smith put something really interesting about like the correlation or whatever for if you are a fast car, you will do well at Atlanta. And there's no smoke and mirrors. These small teams can't get away with stuff. And somehow he was able to pull the data and show that Chase Elliott has been really fast this season. I don't know how he's able to decipher that data. And, because there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of bad things that have happened to. I mean, he just wasn't very good at Homestead. I'm not really worried about that. That was a hot slick racetrack. They missed the setup or whatever. He had a good race at Homestead last year, but it was completely different conditions. At Las Vegas, he got hit on pit road, and then he spun out. Last week, he still finished 5th, even after dealing with a lot of adversity, starting in the back, dealing with a penalty. It's kind of hard to you feel like you're making excuses for Elliott, but I think the public probably is. If the public is scared of Harvick, they probably should be scared of Elliott as well, based on recency bias. But if Larson's running well, if Byron's running well, and I mean Bowman was pretty good in the last intermediate track race, Elliott should probably have the best, shouldn't he? It's there.
Yeah.
It's risky though. I mean, because we are making a lot of excuses for him.
Yeah, but another really appealing thing is his price tag. That 9,800. I can afford to miss on Elliott at 98 in a lineup.
Yeah, and this is low what I've got. That he could lead laps. Some of these guys I don't like. Byron. I don't really think Byron's going to lead laps. He's going to be more of a guy who can get a top 5 and filter off a little bit. He could lead laps. I mean, he did it at Homestead. And if I had to pick Homestead and Las Vegas, I've kind of gone back and forth. I think ultimately this is going to run more like Homestead than it does Las Vegas.
Yeah, certainly later in the Homestead race would be a better indication of how people.
Byron had a lot of long run speed too, man. Remember Truex talking about I couldn't catch him, and Truex like I got long run speed. I'm going to run him down. Just got to be patient. And then Truex realized this ain't happening.
Yeah,
Byron's gone. No one's going. Same thing with Larson and Reddick. Like Reddick thought he might be able to get to him, but all right. So the other guy that you talked. Well, so where would you go next then?
All right, let's see. You've talked Chase. We talked him.
I think you got to go with Truex, don't you?
Yeah, Truex.
Well, Truex really could be number 1. We look at 2 races at Atlanta in this package: the number 1 rated driver, the number 2 rated driver. He was the number 1 rated driver and led 4 laps. And remember, the driver rating is heavily influenced by lap speed. That's pretty good. 2 years. 2 really awesome performances. He's been really good this year. He's just like the 3rd place car at Las Vegas, the 3rd place car at Homestead. Actually, he was 6th here at Las Vegas, but he just is lacking that little bit of speed. I think it's probably more like Homestead. Probably a good argument could be made that he could be the number 1 play today.
Yeah.
They had an awesome set of laps. So I read a little bit more about James Small, and they said that they had figured stuff out. That's one of the articles. They'd figured something out in the offseason, so they unloaded really well, and they knew what they would probably need to do if they had to make some sort of. So they made this crazy big change. Yeah, but I think they had a plan of, all right, this is where we're going to be, and we know what we can do to change to get really fast. So reading James Small's comments between lines, they had a plan. This wasn't some, wow, I can't believe they did it. I think they knew exactly what to do, which is very encouraging for this week.
And I like Truex. I mean, God, I like all these guys. I hate to sound like a broker. Like I really hate shows like that. When I like as a viewer, I like this guy, but man,
you can see it on my sheet. I can't. I can make a definitive case for everybody. Right here, we look at Truex. Track history, awesome. Current form, awesome. Similar track types, it's awesome. The wish, and I don't know. Yeah, and you're right. I hate they're all in my pool. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm gonna be figuring out the lock.
Yeah, and I'm building so many different types of lineups. Like I do have a certain core guys that I like, kind of like Blaney and Bowman seem to be getting into a lot of my lineups, but I'm still just mixing in, the guys that I think are going to lead laps. But how would you, now that you know how I like these guys, how would you rank these guys in terms of how confident you are that they're going to run fast laps or laps led?
I'm not too far off. I think we got a good question though with Maccabee pointing out that Elliott only having 50 fast laps in Atlanta over his career. That is one of my concerns last year, is that we should have at least seen something out of Elliott in stage 3 last year. I don't know. Has anyone seen an article where he has revealed, I don't feel confident? This is home track. He's supposed to have a little bit more something, isn't he? But in that race last year, it just never quite clicked. And Andy had he started first, fell back. Stage 3 was probably, so what is he doing in stage 3? He's running 4th, 5th, kind of fades back. That is worrisome. let's look and see his hog points at other. Still was early in the season last year for Elliott. Hog points later on in the year really turned it on. It seems like, I remember when they got hot, they just couldn't miss. 50 at Darlington. That's a cooler temperature, high, low grip, tire wear track. 50 hog points. He's not so much, but boy, that one's encouraging. Homestead, it's cooler temperature last year. He almost won that race. Charlotte, it's on the side of tire wear. And that was a night race. Should have won that race. And then he comes back and wins the next one, gets 16 hog points. That might look low, but remember, there weren't very many laps in that second Charlotte race. So, I don't know. Maybe it's because they only run here once a year, and Elliott still is a relatively new driver. And so, I don't know. We shall see.
Yeah.
So I'm right with you basically for ranking. I can't really argue either way. Let's just go to the next guy, which would be is it Ryan Blaney, which might be for dollar-wise, he could probably be a lot higher than the guys that we mentioned.
Yeah, so I have a lot of interest in Ryan Blaney more than the I like guys. Like I'm interested in Ryan Blaney this weekend. I have him in a good portion of my lineup so far. I like his price. This is a track that I think he can do well at, and I don't necessarily have him, running away with this race. I just think he can get it done here. I'm right on you with about 15 hog points for him. But if that's the case, I mean, his price is going to work in pretty much any lineup you're working with, and he can be, a secondary hog that you have in your lineup, or even a third or a fourth. Like, he doesn't need to be your main guy.
So this might sound like excuses to some people. That's fine. Don't play Blaney if it sounds like excuses. Homestead, he didn't run particularly well. Hot, slick day. Blaney doesn't really well. I went over this last night, that these higher grip, higher speed tracks, he tends to run better. And I know this is tire wear. It's not the greatest grip. When you drop the temperature at Atlanta, when you drop the temperature at Fontana, it's going to add grip. Homestead, hot, slick day. He doesn't run very well. He gets into that wreck with Eric Almirola. You go back to Las Vegas, much more grip, and we start to see and man, he was close at a couple times. If just gets another break, he's going to lead laps in that race. He faded at times, worked his way back up at times, but he looked like, the fast intermediate track driver that we expected. You look at last year at Atlanta, Blaney came alive in stage 3, track cools. He wasn't doing anything. Track cools in stage 3, he comes to life. Fontana last year, 60 degrees. He is the second best driver. He cords the tire at the end, doesn't get to finish, but he's second best compared to Alex Bowman. You go back to Texas races, which are typically almost flat out high grip races. He's been awesome in these Texas races throughout his career. I think there's something there. If you're not with me, I can understand. That might seem like it's too crazy, but I don't think it's that much of to think that he's a top 5 driver. Maybe he doesn't get a second place finish, but 15 fast laps doesn't seem very extreme to me either. He gives you the savings. I like Blaney a lot.
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said,
let me know.
I'm going to echo.
I'd love to see counter points to really challenge what we think, because I don't want to group think. I don't want to, if someone out there has a counter example, please give it.
And I appreciate that.
Well, night races is disappointing, but Homestead last year didn't seem to bother him. I'm very critical. I just had a voice correct there. I'm very critical on Blaney. Darlington's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
He sucks at Darlington for whatever reason. So
yeah,
I don't know if that's, again, it might sound like excuses to some people, and it could be. We got to figure it out.
Yeah, it's very rare for me to be on the Blaney train, because I give Blaney probably a harder time than I should. And this is really the first time I've been on Blaney this whole year. I just like him going into this race.
Well, let's look at his. Well, but I think McAfee brings up a good point, because he might have 50. He might just not get the finish that we need. He may get hog points in this race, but for whatever reason, if any of these guys up here don't finish in the top 5 or just make a mistake, I think Blaney probably is the top guy. Now you look at 2019, he should have won that race at Atlanta. So last year, I forgot to mention that one as well. Again, he didn't, because if anyone's going to make a mistake or choke it away, Blaney's probably one of the top targets to choke it away. He's probably up there with Byron and Bowman. There's a Texas last year, 18 will do it. I believe. I bet this Kansas race he had 13 and then just choked away at the end. There's another Homestead that night, cool temperatures. I don't care about Darlington. Would like to have seen him be better in the Charlotte race. Care about Darlington. There's that Fontana. Hog point number. Fast to Las Vegas, too. I wish I could give you a definitive case. I can't.
Yeah.
Can you?
I think he's the safest play.
I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, like, look, he has, at least 5 PD points baked in. He's at a price that you can easily get to, and it's not killing your lineup whatsoever. He works alongside of anyone else. I mean, maybe that's a reason why I'm so high on him, just because I see that he works so well with people. I can make a case for him doing well. I mean, my Blaney will probably be my highest owned driver today.
Let me throw another nut in there, or wrench or monkey or whatever. Blaney's crew chief, Todd Gordon. Todd Gordon almost won this race in 2019, and Logano didn't get to finish, but that's because Logano had a loose wheel at the very end of the race. He was probably not the best of the Penske drivers. But, again, it goes back to what Brett Keselowski said a couple weeks ago, that he said with the tire change that they made last year at Las Vegas, this car is going to race more like 2019. 2019, who was really good early on in the season? Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano. And we've seen Brad Keselowski do well. Joey Logano has struggled this season, but maybe that's a Paul Wolf thing. I don't know. Too late, Steve. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I don't remember what I was saying. I think I was done.
Blaney being safe, he's got the baked-in hog points. He's got the place differential. I guess the only argument against that would be if anyone messes up, it's going to be Blaney.
Yeah. But
if anyone and that's not a guarantee either. But
and
where would you go next? Is it going to be Byron or is it going to be Bowman?
It's going to be Bowman. And I mean, slightly, just the place differential points can make him outscore Byron if they have very similar days. I think Byron has a higher chance of winning. Bowman has a higher chance of running way faster laps with not being in the lead. We've seen that pretty much throughout his whole career so far. Looking at the fast laps that he can get when he's not anywhere near the lead.
Bowman, the argument is going to not necessarily be current form, even though he was running better at Las Vegas than he finished, had that tire go down. But he still wasn't even that next step from being fast. You look at Truex, so they got the top guys, and Truex has been kind of right there. Well, then you go even lower down. Bowman's still top 10, but he's not even within that striking distance this year. But if you look at the Fontana race that I mentioned, the Atlanta race last year, not good, and that is a bit of a worry. But it does seem like this team misses more than you would think. You go all the way back to 2019, his win at Chicago. That was a cold day on June 30th, which is kind of crazy to think, but it was about the same temperatures that we're going to run into here. And Bowman went out there, didn't score the most points. Harvick scored the most points, which, I mean, again, Chicago, high tire wear, using the same package. And guess who goes out there and scores the most points? Oh, it's Kevin Harvick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he even dealt with issues in that race. Bowman wins the race. Bowman's the fastest at the end. So track specific, you kind of like Bowman in this situation. But if you look at current form, Rudy Fugle, and when we looked at Rudy Fugle's Atlanta stats in the Truck Series, they were pretty strong. They won at Homestead. They should have done a lot better at Las Vegas had they not had that greasy pit stall. It's really a toss-up for me which one I want to go with. You play them both, you really open your lineup up.
Yeah, which is the way that I'm building a lot of lineups. I'll probably it's between Blaney, Byron, and Bowman is that core I kind of referred to earlier. If I'm trying to find people that I believe are going to lead laps, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 of these guys in the lineup, and then throwing a top tier guy, or one of these guys with 2 top tier guys, or top tier, starting higher up. That's how I would approach it.
Is that going to be popular?
I have no clue. No idea. I wish I could tell you, because everybody is.
I don't think so. I don't believe anyone really wants to go with 4 of these hogs. And if you are going 4 hogs, then yeah, Blaney, Byron, Bowman would be popular, but I don't think people are going to do it. If people are already thinking about going 2, then yeah, Blaney, Byron, Bowman are not going to be popular at all.
I don't know.
So I have no So maybe, I mean, I'm not even really looking at it as completely going weird, but if you are going to 3, I would have at least one of those guys in your lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And then
I imagine if you're going 3, does that mean everyone's jamming in Cindric?
I think so.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It can absolutely work. There's a lot of ways. I mean, if Cindric gets 16th, then that's almost 6x. That's probably good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot. Like, we are just saying, oh, it's just going to be a Penske car, and he's just going to zoom to the front. This guy's never restarted ever in this package. I don't care if the Daytona race doesn't mean anything. He does. You think he's going to have good restart after good restart after good restart? Or do you think, like, well, he's going to have some good ones and some bad ones? Well, if he has some bad ones, it's going to dig him into a hole. Also, he's never had to pass in this package. He's only ever passed with a really good race car, where his car is so much better than everyone else's. He's never had to drive a 500-mile race like this. He's never had to manage tires like this. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with this supposed Cindric chalk. I mean, this is why they picked this race to be the one where this is crazy. Like, Las Vegas would have been a lot better of an option. Like, why would let's find the most challenging track, and then that's where we're going to let you race. What are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I know he's doing the road courses as well this year. But
he'll be great.
I thought the same thing. I was like, why Atlanta? Maybe baptism by fire. Who knows?
Probably it. It's like, hey, let's just see what he get. Like, in reality, like, why would you put him out in Las Vegas? Cool, you finished top 20. That doesn't tell us. Like, oh, you got a 15th at Las Vegas. That gives us nothing moving forward.
Yeah, like,
go out there, run this Atlanta race, and let's see what you got, because we're building for the future. So that's smart. But again, if that's the approach, then they're not. They know it's going to be challenging. They know he's going to struggle. They want him to struggle. And if we know that, then maybe you don't want to roster him.
So my only argument for him is that I have Cindric. Where you at, buddy?
He has a really good car, and as we mentioned before, the good equipment's going to rise to the top. But how much of his lack of skill is going to hold back that good equipment?
So in my projections, I have a lot of guys like in the 30. Obviously, you have the projected lap leaders and stuff. And then I have a lot of guys in the high 20s and in the 30s. Cindric is my 11th highest projected play today. And he's kind of on his own. I have him projected for 44 points. I think it's a bit less than what you have him at. But he might get in there by sheer points just because I think he can. He's going to outscore a lot of people just in place differential. And what is that? I'm giving him like 20th, 19th, somewhere around there. Like, that's not crazy. I'm looking at it as the Benedetto. Like, would I play the Benedetto starting last here, where I think Cindric has a bit more talent than the Benedetto? That's how I would look at it.
So let me argue. Well, I want to go a different direction and just the lineup construction. So if you're building, I'm assuming people are building 3-hog lineup and then going Cindric. So my counter lineup would be 3 hogs, and then that leaves me with people in a very similar price range that can outscore him as Byron, Blaney, and Bowman. If they get top 5s and 10-ish hog points, they crush his score. If they all hit their ceiling compared to Cindric's ceiling, then, and I've got Cindric at 50. Well, Byron's 57, he wins. Blaney's 65, he wins. Bowman's 60, he wins. If the field is going to go heavy on Cindric, and Cindric still has a good day, but one of these 4th guys just runs up front and just siphons out fast lap here and there, and we have seen it. We've seen the fast laps go. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drivers last year with double-digit place differential. We've got, 12-ish guys that we're kind of circling around. One of those guys can get 10 hog points and get a top 5 and break the hearts of the Cindric chalk owners.
The way that I think Cindric works is if Harvick works. Like, I think if Harvick is optimal, then I think Cindric is going to be optimal. And if Harvick isn't, I don't think he is. I
just go back to why not Byron?
Well, if Harvick has a great day, like, I think Harvick will either literally
did have
dominate.
A great day last year.
It's a tough one, man. It's a tough one.
Are you expecting Harvick to lead every lap?
I mean, I'm giving him 80. Like, that's not crazy, and that should be enough for Harvick.
I don't know how you can make cases for Cindric, but all those same cases still can be made for, because the price is the same.
I just made all those cases. We're on Cindric now. I just argued all those other drivers. I'm just making the case for Cindric here.
All right, so for Cindric to work, you need him to have his like a 15th place day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see him going any further than 15?
No.
Okay, so he's got to hit his ceiling.
Yeah.
And you need Byron to just be 8th. You need Blaney to just be 8th. You need Bowman to just be 8th.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 of those guys are all going to have mediocre days. Not one of them is going to step up and say, I can be a 5th place driver. Mm-hmm. That doesn't seem very likely to me. At least it's close enough that Cindric chalk should really be evaluated. That if you're betting Cindric, you need all 3 of those guys to just be okay. Not 1, not 2, but 3 of them to just be okay. It can happen, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't play Cindric, but when you think of it from that perspective, like, well, I don't know. I mean, those guys have all run well. Like, there's a really good case for all 3 of them.
Let me look at the stories that I have the lineups with Cindric in play, like how the lineups are that I have Cindric in. Because I have 20% Cindric right now.
That's fine. It might be lower than that. That's definitely going to be lower, I would imagine, in the field.
Oh yeah. The field should be way higher than that. I'm very high on Cindric. Well,
you probably have him with Byron. It has to be, right? Byron, Blaney, or Bowman. One of those guys has to be in the Cindric.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've already
All right, so that argument can be made then, because then if it's one of these higher price guys. All right, then that's fair, because
that's a good line. I just looked at this line. I was like, man, that's a good line with Cindric. I like that. I do have him with Harvick and other guys. I like the line.
Well, if you're playing with Harvick, then you probably also have to play a Blaney Bowman just to mathematically make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Let alone, I don't even want to know what the bottom of your lineup is.
Yeah, you already know. We talked about it last night. I already told you.
We'll get there. We got to get there soon because we're already running long.
Oh, my God. We're 41 minutes in. We haven't even passed 12.
We should probably put Kurt Busch in the conversation too. I mean, he looked good at Homestead, not so much at Las Vegas. I'll prop him in here, and his price is significantly cheap. That might be another way to go weird. We're overlooking Christopher Bell again. He hasn't been optimal though, has he? No.
I don't think he's been optimal this year.
Anyone know how well he did on some of the longer runs this season? I would like to. I don't have time at the moment to see. So I expect long green flag runs. Long green flag run at a really challenging track. Yeah, well, I mean, the closest thing that we have long green flag runs at a challenging track with Homestead, and they just not good.
Mm-hmm.
Fine at Las Vegas, but man, say that we're closer to Homestead than Las Vegas. All right. Where do you want to go next? Do you want to talk about these ugly plays at the bottom?
Well, let's go to the
you might want to answer some questions first if there's anything that's not too.
Well, they're talking about pump plays and we're arguing.
Okay,
I mean, I know Dre's talking Gase over Cindric on FanDuel. I would play Cindric. There's no way.
How can you compare those guys?
I don't know what that argument is about.
2 completely different plays.
I don't get that at all. Yeah, I guess let's just go to the bottom because we got some talks about Alfredo. So if you're building, even if you're going to 2 dominator lineup, which I wouldn't do, but even if you're doing that, you're going to end up in this price range. Do you want to sort it by pricing? Because this is what everybody's seeing on draft.
Let's sort about pricing, and then let's do a quick refresher though. Actually, yeah, let's do this refresher. We talked about this last night. Let's just look at the optimal lineups from the last couple weeks, just because the idea of, you can't play 2 jokers in the back. Well, you kind of can. That's been the way it is. Now, they weren't extremely ugly, bad plays, but they were definitely drivers in the optimal lineup this year that before the race, you were not really feeling that comfortable about. So I'll put those optimals on the screen right now. If I see them. All right. And we'll start with last week at Phoenix. And it's not really like super ugly, but these were scary, terrible plays. And I'm saying this because we're going to have to discuss some scary, terrible plays here in about a minute. But to make that a little bit easier, Ricky Stenhouse was a frightening play. No one wanted to do it, and it worked. So It's the same plays on the board again this week. But if you're worried about Alfredo, like, oh, this can't work, you said the exact same thing about Stenhouse last week. We felt confident in Suarez, but it was also a selection between him and Haley. There was 2 options.
Yeah,
the pool is so narrow. Like, I guess we'll take Suarez. He started 27th. He finished 21st. He only hit 4.6x. He didn't hit 5x. He was under $6,000. He couldn't hit 5x at under $6,000, and he still worked. So
and that's one of the first times I can remember an optimal line. I don't care about 5x a whole lot, but that is surprising. Like, that's some Xfinity crap right there.
Salaries are tight. Even Bubba Wallace barely hit 5x, and that thing was hit or miss for most of the race. He ends up working just because he wrecked his value comp. It wasn't Cole Custer. He's like, I got myself in DFS. Take him out. To learn how to, like, that was just bad racing. We go to Las Vegas. Look, this Pearce play was terrible. We went through the show trying to find, all right, we're going to look at Pearce, and then we realized at the end, the only reason he finished like 25th at Homestead was because everybody failed. And he got 5 spots because people got flat tires and whatever, and he ends up being optimal. That was he was starting 19th. And he had a good race, though. For whatever reason, he just showed up. But all the data beforehand that we had to work on said, you can't play Pearce. You're just doing it because of price. Well, here we are again. You're just playing some of these guys based on price. I don't know if Homestead was as ugly. At Homestead, we just had these 2 like Black Swan events with Ryan Newman and Chris Buescher. So I still can't explain that. But they're running well this year. They're running well. I mean, Newman doesn't seem like a stretch. It seems like he's back to normal Newman. Now that 7th place finish seems like a stretch. But hey, if Newman was able to finish 7th at this track that we're kind of comparing to, why not play him again today? If you can get there, that's the big if. All right, so now that we've kind of primed the audience, let's talk about Anthony Alfredo.
So I think Anthony Alfredo is going to be he's chalk. I mean, it's not good chalk. It's because you're forced down there, and he's literally the only good play right there, unless you can pay up for Pearce.
Rewind that. Is he worse chalk than Haley was last week? I
don't think Alfredo is optimal. I think he struggles.
Haley wasn't optimal either last week, but if you had Haley, he might have. I think the optimal lineup did get played, but Haley did well, and the people that played Haley built lineups they liked, and they won money. But is he? I think he's either the same or a better play than Haley was last week. And remember, Haley is Corey LaJoie of 2018, 2019. Where do you stand on that?
I have gone out of my way to try and not use
Answer the question. Is he the same as Haley, better or worse than last week?
I think he's worse.
Why?
Because I think he struggles at this race.
Okay, that's a good point. This is going to be his toughest race he's ever been in.
I don't think he does well today at all. Like, I know he's starting 32nd, but I have him. Where do I have him projected? I have him. Oh, yes, I remember I have him projected for 21 points today. And I think that's his ceiling.
Who scores more than 21 points at 5,500 or lower? Who's even close to that?
Nobody. I mean, that's why. I mean, it's him in this range. But do you want to be like? I would try and stay above that.
Yeah, but the more that you go up, it really limits who you can go after above that 9K range. Yeah. I would gladly forfeit 6 points with Alfredo if I can chase 25, 30 with a couple extra bucks towards a hog. Right? Like, you can take like 3,000 down. Like, I will save the money here because the dollars I spend on the top end up here can go super huge. Like, if I spend 300 down here to upgrade Alfredo to Pearce, who I'm probably in the lineup with already, if I upgrade to here, I might gain 10 points. By playing Pearce, I get 10 more points. But if I spend that 5,000 up here, it might be the difference between 30 or 40 points.
Yeah, and I just saw it start. Yeah, I think I was talking too loud and I was yelling into the microphone, and I could hear it. I could hear it on your computer. Sorry about that. I mean, Alfredo. I think I could pinpoint Alfredo being.
You are trying to fade him because he's popular.
but
You're trying to
I think
outfox the field. Admit it.
I would much rather. I like the lineups that I have. I have higher projected lineups with Alfredo than with my guys. So, or
How much Pearce do you have, and how much Buescher do you have?
got a lot of Buescher. Got a lot of Buescher.
What could go wrong?
Would you rather have Buescher or Alfredo head to head? Who do you think scores more points?
Oh, Buescher probably scores more points, but I don't care if Buescher scores 5, 8 more points than Alfredo. Having $600 more can really help me get 4 of these guys into my lineup. You go up to Buescher and you get locked out of some lineups. It gets harder to get Kevin Harvick into lineups. That's my argument. It has nothing to do with Alfredo being good. This is going to be a very challenging race for him. The argument you could make is, hey, the front row motorsports cars they're halfway decent in this package.
Mm-hmm.
If he just goes out there and turns laps, doesn't make mistakes, he can be okay. And that's what he's done the first 2 races. Homestead should have been a challenging race. He still finished 24th at Homestead. Now, again, that's played by other people having issues, but he can do the same thing. He can finish 26th or 27th, and I will be absolutely fine with that, as long as he's not the guy having issues. Las Vegas, 24th. That's pretty good for a kid with very little experience.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like if you play Harvick, you're forced to play Alfredo.
Yeah.
Like then it gets really dirty and it gets really ugly. So I mean, Alfredo's going to be like 38% owned. I think it's 38% owned. 38, 40, 42. I would not be shocked.
I don't care about that. Like if I'm trying to swear on ownership, it's real easy. I'll play Cindric. I play 4 hogs, and I don't have to worry anything about owners. You don't, because no one's going to do that. Very few people are going to play 4 of these guys up top. And if I go that direction, I have no worries. I don't have to. Like I'm already being crazy enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I can play whoever I want at the bottom.
Okay, well, I think those are all.
Cindric, Alfredo, to add to your point. Yeah, that might be, you might need to get off of Alfredo if you got Cindric.
Yeah. Let's see. So I'm not on Haley at all. I don't mind Pearce, Buescher, McDowell, Stenhouse, Suarez. I have ownership to all these guys because I'm getting off Alfredo. I'm forced to go and use these guys in lineups.
And that's fine. So if we were to talk about, I think Buescher's your number 1 guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have any upside, which, again, we can deal with because we don't need them to hit home runs. Right? We had a 4.6x Suarez that basically was the same price last week, although his starting position was a little bit better. He did look good at Homestead until he got into traffic. He's going to be in traffic this week.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't going to be any ways that I put in the cheat code for these smaller teams at this racetrack. But if he slides back, it becomes easier for Alfredo to be, if not better, good enough, plus the savings that a different lineup works, is the argument against Buescher.
Yeah.
The argument for Buescher is he's got experience. He's been fine at this racetrack, sort of, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to overreact to this first ever race in this package at Atlanta in 2019. Also, he was with JTG Daugherty in that race. Pearce was really good in that race, if we remember, before BJ Mcleod and him got into each other on pit road. Mike Joy will never forget that day, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. He never will. He'll bring it up today, I promise you.
You would think bet on that? I bet he does work it in.
I bet he does too.
Okay, who's number 2? Is it Pearce for you?
I'm getting
Come on, Mike.
I'm getting Suarez. I'm getting Suarez as 2.
But that's pretty expensive. How do you got that much money? You obviously aren't playing Harvick in the Suarez lineup then.
I have Suarez in a Harvick lineup.
Yeah.
I like my
lineup. You
lineup.
got Cindric in that lineup. Then you got Chase Elliott in that lineup. Am I not too far off?
It
just becomes
you're in the price range, but not the drivers.
Yeah.
So at least, I mean, with the builds that I'm making, I haven't needed to really go under that. A third for me is Chastain. I talked to you yesterday about that. I like Chastain here. I think he can get a top 18, top 15. He has practice if you want to argue that aspect as well. So
yeah, fine. It's the same thing for Buescher. I don't know how much further he can go. but you're also spending a lot. Like, I would love to have this money. Like, if I can get to 66, I'm just like, well, can I find a way to get up to Newman?
So I have Newman and Busher, Newman and Chastain. I got that. I mean,
We went over that last night. We had a couple different builds that we could make with Newman, Chastain, Busher. We were just tinkering around, so you can watch that 7,000-hour stream. I don't know. I think what we got nailed was us playing the tweet of the fight, and Fox owns. That was the copyright infringement.
Really?
I believe that was it. They didn't really say specifically. They didn't. I don't have a monetized channel, so it doesn't matter. It's not a strike. Yeah. But NASCAR ultimately gets to decide if they want to shut it down. So they haven't yet. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I think that's what it was when we showed the tweet, which played the fight. Which
that's weird.
Whatever. So you are next. So you went Butcher. You didn't go Pearce, did you? You went Suarez. You went Chastain. So you're not even on Pearce.
I think I had him as third in that ranking.
They're all. I mean, it's. I wish I could tell you which one's going to do the best. I mean, I feel a little bit more comfortable predicting these guys than who's going to run the most laps. Mcleod seems to be the least likely. Mm-hmm. And you could also argue Stenhouse. He's just getting too close to the front. If his price was $6,000 or if he was 58, he's running well, but is it just too much now? Are we buying GameStop at $300 if you're still chasing Stonkhouse?
So we talked about this a bit last night, and this isn't my only point, but we're due for a Stenhouse wreck. I went back.
Get that juju out of here.
I went back and looked, and he's on like a 10-race streak right now of not wrecking, and he hasn't been this good since 2018. Like that's the next longest run that he did. But man, starting 12th at a challenging track like this, I like him at high grip.
I like him at challenging tracks. Is my argument. When he's got to search for a groove and he has to move around, you can see that in these Atlanta results. He's a dirt track racer. If we got to move around. But it might not be if it's really cool and the temperatures make one groove work really well over the others. If the bottom is just really hooked up, I would like him more if it was hot and slick, kind of like last year. I wonder if we look at his laps, if he is really good at the beginning of that race. And then maybe, obviously he finished 13th, so he must have been halfway decent at the end. But man, look at the beginning of this race. He goes from 22nd, moves up to 15th. That's 7 spots in the first 25 laps. And he's moving, kind of running in the top 15. I don't know what happened here. Oh, pit cycling, I'm assuming. Actually, I can't remember. Anyway, it looked like he made all of his movement, appears during the hot slick part of the race and really doesn't go anywhere as the track cools down. So you want to make that argument against him. We've been real tough on him.
My last point here is like, say if the optimal amp is going to change in this value depending on whoever the high guy becomes optimal, Harvick, Kyle Busch, whatever the case is, I would see it either being like Alfredo Pearce, Alfredo Busher, Alfredo McDowell, or it moves up to Pearce Busher, Pearce McDowell. And if it moves up even more and more, if the optimal lineup ends up having a higher price guy between Stenhouse and Chastain or Suarez, I think it would be Chastain or Suarez before Stenhouse. So I guess that's another argument if you want to make that as well.
My argument would be, who cares? not like that you didn't make a point. You do, and we could argue like, oh, this guy could finish. We're talking about a handful of points here.
Yeah.
As long as you pick a guy who doesn't have a bad day, a guy that's okay, they could all work. Ultimately, what's going to separate you is if you get 4 of these guys right, or if you get 3 right and Cindric has a good day, whichever way. Unless there's this, I guess, a really unconventional way would take 3 of these guys, and then you're playing like a Kurt Busch, or you're playing a Alec or an Austin Dillon, or 3 in Ryan Newman with 2 punts. That's just throwing that out there. Maybe that's not crazy.
So this is looking.
But back to it though, it's just like I don't think this is what's going to win you money. Picking the right punt. What's going to win money is did you pick the 4 guys?
Yeah.
If you got the 4 guys. Who cares? Like if you get the 4 guys and then my punts they were just okay. you probably still won. Like I won't be surprised to see the optimal lineup is not played, and the best lineup doesn't have the best interchangeable punts. It might just end up being Alfredo. I don't really want to. That's not where I want to kick against the prick.
Do you think because pricing is so cheap here, we might actually see someone under Alfredo be useful this week? Like, is this a
the
week?
optimizer does this every week, and it never happens, right? I will go in and tinker with the optimizer. It's here we are, BJ Mcleod at Homestead, right?
Yes,
Las Vegas was who was it? Las Vegas.
He's good. He's just too expensive, and he's starting too high up. I'm not playing Cody Ware.
None of those things.
He's none of those Cody Ware.
He's none of those things. Stop it.
I will say I have 2 lineups with Quinn Hoff. That's all I will say.
He finished 30th. Okay, so he's doing the best among the punts. That's I think Smithley's doing the best. Smithley's not in the car this week. Ware is Ware in that car? Who's in that specific? There's the 51 and the 53, so we've got to worry about Ware, and
I think Balicki's in the 52. So
52 is not very good. I'll pull that up since we are running a little long. Might as well talk about it. I don't want to avoid the question. The preferred wear car, if there is such a thing, I can't believe I'm doing this again, is going to be Joey Gase, which I cannot get behind Joey Gase, and Cody Ware. Can't do it. Not doing it. It hasn't worked yet. Maybe this will be the work week. You really are. You're probably just giving up too many points if you go that way.
What do you have? What do you have Quinn Hoff projected at DK points wise?
If he finishes 33rd, which is what he's done in the last 2 intermediate track races, he scores 10 points. That's not good.
I gave him 31st, and he's only 7 points behind Alfredo.
I've got him scoring 10. I've got Alfredo scoring 24. I don't believe I can give up 14. I give up 10 points. The argument I made between Alfredo and Buescher and these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I can get maybe 10 points from Byron, or I can get 10 points for Bowman and a finish that makes up for it. I don't know. I mean, it's not that far away. That's not a bad argument. That all right, well, he still has to do his best. Half has to hit his ceiling.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe we didn't get a question. Like, we had people asking about where and
that's
and
good
stuff.
that no one's asking about that.
I mean, I thought Quinn Hoff for sure, because that's the argument that I saw last night in my optimizer, messing around with it.
Last time I ran it, it went with BJ Mcleod. Why aren't you playing your boy? The optimizer said play him. You got to play him more.
Well, he's starting 31st. He can't do anything. He's my boy, but I think Quinn Hoff
13 points if he finishes where he's supposed to finish, which is 30th. 13 points. Last time I checked, 13 is more than 10 out of house, and he's cheaper.
That's why I project how to do better. That's why I got to project.
If Mcleod finishes 31st, he still outscores BJ.
So, okay, if we're gonna make this argument,
this is terrible.
This is horrible.
In
yes, I appreciate you guys still being here. BJ starting first. I love him when he's starting dead last. DFL, nowhere to go. He has I still think he has the fastest car out of the punts, which is reflected by him starting 31st. I don't think he can get you there with his points. I think guys behind him can outscore, like people like Joey Gase, people like Quinn Hoff. I mean, this is minuscule. I'm not saying play these guys. I just think they outscore him DK points wise, and their prices don't work. I don't think BJ's works. The only argument I have for Half this week is that he's at a price that I don't mind playing him, and he has place differential. I think he has 4 place differential plays.
How many place differential do you give him?
Giving him 4.
Why?
I think he finishes 31st.
Has he ever finished 31st?
Has he ever finished a race?
I mean, dude, they finished 29th at Daytona. And I mean, all you have to do is just not do anything to finish 29th at Daytona. He got 31st at Darlington last year. And
only
36, but these have got to be wrecks that got him there. He's a 33rd. I don't know. What are we arguing about? Fine. If you're playing those guys, I don't think it really matters. If so, if you get all the other 5 spots right, and you got BJ, it's not going to be, oh, the Quinn Half lineup beat the BJ Mcleod lineup. It's not going to happen. There's no, now watch this happen. But if it comes down to Quinn Half versus BJ, it's not going to. If everything works out, that you're going to be fine with either one. That's my stance. As long as they don't fail.
Yeah.
But all right.
I think
we should close on a more beneficial.
Well, let's see. We didn't even talk about the 7K range. You want to talk about them real quick?
Well, you did a good question. So there's something that just popped in my head. If you take 3 of these guys, so we've said like the 3 hogs is pairing with Cindric. Well, what if let's lock in Newman and see what this thing spits out. I think it's going to go with a 4 hog lineup, but I just want to see what the 3 hog lineup with Newman. Maybe that gets your ugly plays a little less ugly. I don't think it will. I think they'll just get uglier. All right, where's Newman at on my sheet?
Yeah, I don't think it'll move the other play up. I think it'll move it farther down.
But it's a good experiment nonetheless. You got to see what it does. Because I am thinking about, well, what if, because I don't think this will be popular at all, and it's not crazy. Newman can have a good day.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's pop this up. So it's what we would like. I mean, I could lock in 3 hogs. I'm not going to. I mean, we could do that in our head. Let's just see what this does first before we really start messing around with it. So we're locking in Newman with the hope of it giving us like the 3 hog lineup, Newman, and I don't know who the other 2 is. But what we think it's going to do is it's just going to give someone super ugly with Newman and then give us a 4th hog. Mm-hmm. So then it kind of doesn't really do what I'm looking at. We probably would have to hand build a lineup with, let me just take those 3 guys plus Newman. We'll throw in an ugly punt. That leaves 5,300, so it doesn't help.
Yeah.
If you do 3 and Newman and a cheap guy, you're still stuck in the cheap range. Newman's not enough savings to 5,300. That's not going to work. Now, if I take out Alfredo and I go down to your pal BJ Mcleod, it's still not any better. 6,200. It doesn't. So the 3, and I took the 3 most expensive. Let's try a little different route. Let's go there. Let's take these 2 guys, and we'll take Newman and Alfredo, and that leaves us with 7,400. That's a little different build. You're gonna put, let you guys fill in the blanks. I'm not gonna give out lineups like that. All right, so it's still ugly. It's a little less ugly, but it's the same build that we've already seen. We saw this last night. It's not bad. It's really, that's a lineup I think everyone out there should. Yeah, maybe I should enter that in. It can definitely work.
Yeah.
But
lock in half. I want to see what it does with your projections because I already know what it does with mine.
With half with Newman or just half alone?
Just half by itself.
Well, this is kind of what we saw before, but because I think the last lineup it spit out was BJ Mcleod. Say it's going to be Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson.
I don't think it might not force Harvick in. Or I guess it would.
In my projections, it absolutely will. With mine, I've got Harvick for 100 points. So you'd have to exclude him to go. Like, I don't think he's going to get forced in. Right now, he's got 9X. It's putting him in first before it puts anyone else in. The new DK rules scoring, we've talked about this in previous shows, that with the new scoring, the extreme punks have been even harder to hit. But we have seen, though, that the guys a step above that aren't completely ugly, they're working. So there's this gray zone between value that we trust, these punt/value that we don't trust, and people that have no business being out there. The untrustworthy value/punt plays are working. It's like Stenhouse worked, Suarez worked. And you're going to say, well, we kind of believe in Suarez because we forced ourselves, knowing that pricing ahead of time was already tough. We forced ourselves to take a leap of faith on Justin Haley. We forced ourselves to play Ryan Pearce.
I got to defend myself here. Wes, look, I enter like 20 lineups in each race. I'm playing like I have 2 with Quinn Hoff, so I don't know what you're talking. Like you guys act like I play.
They're always going to give you more time because you do give these guys support. But I'm here to balance it out and say, let's hold off on that.
Yeah. See, that's not an ugly lineup.
To give these super turds their moment. They're going to hit one of these days, and then you're going to take like 70 victory laps. So this super turd lineup, you still got Pearce in it,
man,
but you've got 4 guys that can really have wonderful days.
I mean, you take Harvick out of that lineup.
then you lose.
Right.
No, but I mean, you can build a Harvick or build a not Harvick lineup. Yeah. You take Harvick out, you're still like, I mean, why are you taking Harvick out? What do you want to do? What are you going to take? You're going to upgrade one of these guys at the bottom? What's the point? You can't upgrade down here.
Well, no, so, like you can't say if you keep Harvick, you take Harvick out and then play real plays, then you're all good to go.
Well, I mean, so if you take Harvick out, you can boost Bowman. It's fine. You can chase Kyle Busch points, which we didn't spend hardly any time talking about here. We talked a lot about it last night. That happened again. I think Kyle Busch can be optimal.
I think he can too. I think Kyle. I guess we should touch on that because we're kind of running.
We'll do Kyle Busch and then we'll wrap it up. So you go ahead and.
Well, okay. Let me do it quick because we're going through people that we didn't talk about in the 7K range. I have Austin. I like Austin Dillon. I don't mind Cindric. I'm not touching Cole Custer. I'm not touching Bell. No Eric Almirola for me. No De Benedetto. I'm interested in Kurt Busch. A little bit. The argument to be made with Kyle Busch is that this is a long race, and you said it last night. I mean, this is a long race. We've seen him do well in races that are really long, and we've seen him do well at intermediates last year when the races were really long. You could say that he had practice in the truck race, so he at least understands the track. He knows what he wants his car to do. You know, that's my argument with Kyle Busch, and I don't think people are playing Kyle Busch at all.
I don't know. I don't know what the field is on Kyle Busch. I thought it would be a lot higher by the time. Not my optimizer. I tinkered with it too much. Whatever. Yeah, I think Kyle Busch has time to dial it in, and he scores enough points that he gets the place differential. We saw him finish well. We went through a lot of the stats last year. He was always in the top 5. He just didn't live up to our expectations of previous seasons. But at the longer racetracks with more miles or more laps, it gives him more chances to get the thing dialed in, to work on it. And he was fast at the end of the race last year. That stage 3 should race a lot more. There should be plenty of grip in the racetrack today. He got a new crew chief, though, so that could be a bit of an issue, setting everything up. We'll see. If people have been, like we talked about earlier, Elliott's been burning people, Harvick's been burning people, Busch has been burning people. If the ownership is down, then go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I just like too many people.
Yeah.
It's really, I hate it because it does. We're doing exactly what I hate, which is, we like everybody. But I'm having a hard time just shooting holes in people. Like all the holes I could put in all these guys are all the holes I can put in all of them. So,
yeah, I think that's where we're at, man.
Yeah, there's the optimizer going BJ Mcleod again. Now, for those, it's done this before, and it wasn't BJ. I think it's done this every week. After we go in,
it does it every week. It does
Sunday morning. Every Sunday morning, the damn thing's got Mcleod on. People are like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It's because I'm giving all these guys ceiling days. You know, they're probably not all going to hit it. And so if they don't all hit, then you don't. I'm not explaining that anymore.
You're gonna explain how the
I'm frustrated with myself. So you guys don't need to hammer me about this. I wish. And I've been trying so hard. Like, who could it be? I like Harvick. I like Larson. We're both in agreement there, aren't we? Well, actually, I can understand the people that don't like Harvick. My biggest thing is like, who's 3, who's 4? I can survive having Byron, Bowman, and these guys be the 4 because the bar's lower for them.
Yeah,
3 is probably the biggest challenge, and then on top of that, it's hard to build the Harvick Larson lineup.
Yeah, it's rough.
So good luck. But the thing is, I really think anyone's got a chance today again because pricing's so tight. I don't know how much of an advantage anyone has if they're I mean, obviously, mass entering, you have an advantage, but you can't cover all these bases. You can't.
Can't, man. If this seems like a week, if I was mass entering, which I might not, I won't mass enter, but
I wouldn't
make it a lot of lineups. Like I might just full fade like 2 or 3 guys versus entering 150 lineups and spreading out ownership evenly across the board, which I think a lot of guys are going to do. I think I'd cross out. If I had to cross people out, it'd probably be Hamlin, Keselowski, Logano.
But aren't those the same people that everyone else is going to cross out? So maybe you want to.
maybe, but and Harvick. I think I would get rid of Harvick. I think I'd full fade Harvick. Like if I had the money, if I had the bankroll to where 1,500.
Well, this is why you don't have a bankroll, because you're going to fade him in 150 lines. You're a lunatic. Like, let me just put this back on the screen. You're going to enter 150 lineups and none with Kevin Harvick.
Oh,
what are you doing?
Man,
you would not do that. You wouldn't. There's no one that would play 150 lines without Harvick.
So well.
Someone will call you out on that clickbait.
I hope Harvick.
Bubba gonna get fired this week.
Bubba's getting fired. He's gonna run horrible. He's gonna finish 25th. That's what I have him at.
Fired.
He's gonna get fired. Yep, he is.
Okay, I think we gotta wrap it up.
I don't know if Jordan's
really sent some good vibes towards the turds.
Yeah. Oh, we need those vibes for next week.
Newman is not the fourth guy. We tried to build a lineup with him as I don't think it works. He can be in your lineup as like a fifth guy. He's value punt range, but he's not. I don't see Newman working in a lineup that only has 3 hogs. Maybe it's Newman Cindric too. That's too much. You maybe get 3 hogs. Let's close this way.
Oh, thank God. Okay, yeah, Jordan is with me. So where am I?
He's completely fading.
I think I'm gonna have. Let me look, because I haven't finished all my lineups yet. But I have.
That is the mini max though.
It's still a max.
Still max. Yeah.
Still a max.
I would like to know his ownership in the higher dollar though. He doesn't need to tell us that. But there is a reason he's not running this well, and even if he was running well, it's still at the end of the day it comes down to Harvick guessing the setup. And so there is a legitimate reason to see, like, hey man, they're 0 for this year. What leads you to believe that all of a sudden they're going to guess the right set? Plus with the inspection issue. But I just want to go back. Remember, you said being 40 to 60% ownership. That seems like a very fair number.
On who?
Harvick. Didn't you say that?
And I said that on Alfredo.
You said that on Harvick earlier today. You said you had about 40 to 60 of your lineups.
Yeah,
where's your Harvick ownership at now?
It's at 38, and I might.
What the hell, man? That's the same as 40.
Well, no. Well, you didn't let me finish. Driver, you're not letting me finish. I'm saying I think I'm gonna bring it down to maybe 30 or 25. Like, because look, I don't need to go crazy. We all know the chalk with Harvick. I know we're going over this time, but the chalk with Harvick is Harvick and Alfredo. So if I don't play as much Harvick, but if I do play Harvick and I get off Alfredo or make unique lineups, I have it covered there. Like I'm happy with those. So if I'm light on Harvick, but I already have lineups that different, I can't even talk right now, that are different than the rest of the lineups with Harvick in them, like I think I'm good. I think you could be low on Harvick and have unique lineups that could win a GPP, and you don't even have to be overweight on them.
You know what I just heard? If I think.
Welcome to the show. Where have you been for an hour?
So Xavier brings up a point. If you are Team Harvick about his miss at Las Vegas, his miss at Phoenix, they probably had already built those cars before they learned new things. And we know this from the past. The teams learn a lot, and then you see it in the first race when they come back to the East Coast. Now, didn't it used to be Atlanta? What race was that in the past? It was the first. I don't even really remember what was the first intermediate track.
It used to be Atlanta.
It was Bristol and it was Martinsville. What would it be?
This used to be number 2 because it was Phoenix and they changed it to Atlanta.
Well, let's just look. What was in 2019? I don't have the 2019. What was the first intermediate track race after they swung back? Thanks, Xavier. I was trying to get out of here and then you bring this up. All right, 2019. The first race back, teams have learned stuff, would be, I guess, Texas. We'll consider it Texas. That was still a real pretty shoddy race. That thing came down to pit cycling. Hamlin was the fastest off pit road that won. Hamlin, Boyer finished second. Boyer would have won the race, but man, it was still so early in the 2019 package that they didn't know what the hell they were doing. But if we want to look at laps led, Hamlin 45, Jones 30, Jimmy Johnson 60. That's a Texas thing for Jimmy Johnson. Byron 15. Byron was optimal in that race, if I remember correctly. 66 for Kyle Busch. 35 for Chase Elliott. No, they're too deep in the weeds here. Too deep. All right, the optimal lineup. If you go Cindric Newman, this thing's terrible.
That's horrible. That's a horrible line. That's disgusting.
2? If you were going to go 2, that's how you can make 2 hogs work. But
do you think people go that way? I think that might actually. I know we think that's disgusting. What if people play that?
So one of the things I mentioned on raceforprize.com, we talked about this pre-race. So Eric Jones worked at Las Vegas because he got that caution that bailed him out. Him and a couple other guys were able to stay out on old tires. Well, where did Eric Jones? Because Eric Jones was chalky the week before, which I thought was crazy. At Homestead, you didn't get the caution. And even if you would have got the caution at Homestead, everyone has to pit. He doesn't gain 10 spots that way by skipping the pits. So we get a caution here at some point in stage 3. Everyone pits. There is not a circumstance where you can play games on pit road. We saw it yesterday. We've seen this at every Atlanta race. Everyone has to pit. If Eric Jones is going to get to 15th, which is his ceiling, he has to drive an RPM car to 15th. I don't see that happening. So I can't do Eric Jones.
Yeah, that's a big no for me. Same with Custer. I know we didn't talk on him.
We need a bunch of cautions at the end.
What do you think of Reddick real quick? I have him in a few lines.
You can see him getting the 16th. I don't like when I go through his intermediate track data last year, it wasn't great. He had a couple good races, but that's Homestead. Yes. Well, Homestead might compare. Yeah, maybe, but I don't think that his Homestead stuff is so good that it's so unique to Homestead. And, he had a good race at Texas, but that was just through pit cycling. He had some decent Darlington races. End of the day, I think he's probably 16th. Maybe give him a couple more spots. But if I got 84, I would really go up here and try to get someone to get fast laps.
Mm-hmm. Do you foresee yourself building any lineups not touching the 10K range?
No.
Interesting.
You're going to build a lineup that fades all 5 of these guys.
Yeah. Because Truex, what if,
all 5 of them fail.
I think that's worth a shot. I would much rather do something stupid like that than try and than build a lineup with like a punt on the bottom, like Hoff or something.
That's a good question.
Elliott, Truex,
I really don't want to go with the punt at the bottom, but I still think I would probably punt before I play a lineup that avoids all 5 of these guys.
Well, okay, I know we're going way over time, but let's really discuss this because I have a few. We agree that we like Blaney and Byron, right? Like we like them.
Yeah, and it is definitely Price. But I liked him before I saw Price. But we can't act like Price doesn't matter. But yeah, we like Byron and Blaney and Bowman. Okay.
So what if a situation like that to where Truex works? Like Truex shows up in races. Harvick doesn't work.
I mean, it's not like a what if. He has been the best driver in Atlanta the last 2 years in this package.
Yeah. So and if you look at Las Vegas, man, that race was very similar to how this was. If those guys actually if I know it's not exactly the same.
Truex has been right on the edge of the last 2 Las Vegas races, right there, but not there.
Yeah. So Las Vegas, you had Keselowski, Larson.
And Keselowski is definitely his Las Vegas race. I mean, he could have gone the other way. He had some really awesome restarts if we pull him up. So if Keselowski doesn't have these great restarts, the last run of the race, he jumps from 10th to, let me see. He gets 7 spots right there and then just motoring up to 3rd. Now, that tells me more if he had a really good car if he's motoring like that. There was another restart where he had another phenomenal restart. You take these away, and, you can't just take them away. Look, 10th to 3rd. Maybe you want to go back and look at that restart, but whatever skill he pulled off, there has to be something there. But then again, if that doesn't happen, maybe he struggles to the race. I don't know. It's still, how many laps did he run inside the top 5? 82%. Kind of pretty good.
Because if I'm
2019, remember he says 2019. He won this race in 2019. I got lucky, got the lucky dog at the end, but you gotta be in position to be lucky.
Yeah. See, Jordan says I'm not crazy. He has a few lineups out of 150.
I don't think anyone here is crazy, and I appreciate all of the counter opinions. It's good. We got to make sure that we don't do groupthink and that we we like all these guys. So the best thing that we can do is try to fight each other over them, because I don't want to just group think and we all like the same guys. We need to really fight over all this to get to the best option. I really appreciate people in the chat calling us out. When do we need to be called out and making us think it's good?
Yeah. I think that's probably where we're going to call it. You guys have really helped this show grow a ton this year, because we never expected this amount of viewership at all. So we really do appreciate it. At least I do. I don't know what Pearce does, you know.
I don't expect anything, man.
If it's Dan, man.
I wasn't going to mention it. Let's just roll. Let's close it. We got so close.
All right, so close. End it, or last thoughts for you?
So my final thoughts are, for Hog, whatever you want to call it, 4 of these guys above 8,800 is a build versus 3 and Cindric. Those seem like the 2 paths. And I predict the popular path is going to be the safe Cindric route. So I am jumping over here and taking 4 guys, all with good cars, all with track position, at a track that favors good cars and track position. So that's where I'm going. Could go horribly wrong.
I'm in the same boat. I got nothing to really.
Not completely fading Cindric, by the way. Also, like someone's good.
Oh, you are?
I'm not fading Cindric, but
I thought you were.
Less than the public. I'll have some, but not. It'll be minuscule.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. We really do appreciate it. We'll catch you next week for the Bristol Crash Fest Demolition Derby.
How many views you got in your video? Are we
yeah. Before we end, it was like 104 this morning.
100,000 views on your Bristol Wreck Fest video.
On my meme video that I made when I was drinking at 2 a.m. That's incredible. Yeah, 106. My bad. In 4 days. That's nice.
Check out that video, guys. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next week.